What is up, PokeMoshPit? This is ShinigamiNTW, and I have a standard black and white battle against Sebass from Abra's Asylum. Um, let's get right into the battle. He starts off with his Gligar. I start off with my Sizzle because I didn't see anything that could really hurt Sizzle that much on his team. I go for the U-turn straight off the bat, and he taunts me. I'm not really sure why. And I go into my Swampert. I expected him to stay in and taunt my Swampert because people like doing that, but instead he U-turns out fearing the Ice Beam, which I end up doing. So he switches into Burangeru, who gets frozen by the Ice Beam, and that really ends up hurting him later on. I took this opportunity to set up rocks because I thought it would switch, but it stays in, probably trying to get thawed out, but that doesn't end up happening, or anytime soon anyway. So I go into my Punk Lizard thing because it can take any status move because it's got Shed Skin. It has a high special defense, so could pretty much wall a Burangeru. So expecting to switch, I go for the Drain Punch, and it hits the Hitmonlee hard, but I didn't want to take the fighting move, so I switched out into my Dusclops, who is pretty mismatched against the Gligar because I thought it was gonna taunt, but it ends up that he just goes for the Stealth Rocks, and yeah, I guess. So expecting the U-turn again, I go for the Roar to rack up some res damage on whatever I switch in. So in comes the Burangeru, still frozen and all, and I roar it out back into Gligar, and I'm expecting this time he would stay in and taunt me so I could stop roaring him out, but he goes for the U-turn again, and I'm caught again going for the Ice Beam on his Burangeru. So at this point I just pretty much came to the conclusion that I should switch, because if I stayed in, I might get toxic, I might get burnt. These things just love status. So I go into my Punk Lizard thing who could take those status moves, but the Burangeru is still frozen. I'm not sure what the chances of that are, but yeah. And it's still frozen. So I go for the Crunch this time, expecting to switch into Gligar and not wanting to get off the resisted Drain Punch. Then he goes for a Boiling Water, and we find out there and then that Boiling Water thaws through Freeze. And at least everyone's learning something new here. So I kill that thing off with the Crunch, and in comes the Zangoose. Now I'm expecting the close combat, so I switch into my Sizzle. In retrospect, I really should have switched into Dusclops, but I really just wanted to get this thing out of the way quickly, but I still should have gone into Dusclops. So his Toxic Orb activates, which kind of weirded me out, but I didn't have time to go online and check what its Dream World ability is, because I know for a fact that that doesn't have immunity. But I didn't check out because my internet browser was going a bit slow. Turns out it's sort of like Guts, but just with poison. So his second close combat managed to take me out. I go into Heatmoruma to revenge kill basically, and the Flare Blitz is going to take out the Gligar without that much problem, and he goes into his Hitmonlee again. Now I'm expecting the Hitmonlee to have Fake Out, Sucker Punch, some sort of priority, so I go into my Invisible, and he goes for an Endure, weirdly enough. So that showed me that this is a reversal unburden Leechy set. So instead of attacking him, I just go for the burn, and even though his Leechy Berry is going to activate now, it doesn't really matter. So he goes for an Earthquake, and Dusclops isn't going to really take anything from it and finish it off with Seismic Toss. So now he goes into his crocodile thing and goes for a substitute. Now I was expecting him to crunch, so I went for the disabled so he could basically stop crunching. But I ended up disabling his substitute, which was still good. So he goes for a crunch, and I don't want to leave a crocodile thing. I really need to learn these names behind a sub because that's pretty dangerous. Oh yeah, it's just dangerous. He finishes me off with a crunch and gets an overconfidence boost, which was slightly worrying. But even so, I'm able to go into my Hihidaruma and get off the Flare Blitz on anything that's left in his team. He goes into his Ditto, right? And with Eccentric, he changes into my Hihidaruma straight away. But even though it's resisted, the Flare Blitz is gonna almost one-hit KO the thing. And it's even more unfortunate for him that I'm Scarf 2, that was a speed tie, and I won the speed tie. So his Ditto pretty much didn't do anything. Here he goes into his Zangoose, and he knows I'm Scarfed at this point, so he goes for the quick attack. So that was kinda not good. I go into my Swampert at this point, and I really needed as much res damage on the Zangoose as I could get before I went into my final phase, and I roar him out into the crocodile thing again. At this point, I knew that like the Warubiru was gonna take me out with the earthquake, but Swampert had done its job. So he gets an overconfidence boost, which I forgot about, which is kind of worrying after all of that. And I switch into my Punk Lizard, and he goes for a substitute, which kind of confused me at first. So I Drain Punch a substitute, getting health back in the process, which was good, I guess. And what does he do now? He goes for another substitute and activates Select Berry, and then he tells me it's a custom set, and it was kind of not that effective here because all my other pokes are slower than it. I know that for a fact. And he goes for an earthquake, and it doesn't take out my Punk Lizard thing even after the boost, and even though I didn't put any, well, I put some, but not a lot of defense EVs in this thing. So the croc goes down, and he goes back into his Zangoose. And now that Zangoose is all alone, I can pretty much take it out after it close combats me. Now, since he used close combat, it actually helped me as well, because now when I use this guy, it's pretty much just guaranteed it's gonna knock him out. So I go into my Nidoking, who is a mixed set, but is heavily special based, so it has very few attack EVs, and I wasn't sure if that Sucker Punch would KO without all the prior damage. So anyway, with that Sucker Punch, I end up winning the battle by 1. So that was a good game. Swing by my channel, and peace.